this video I'm going to be showing you how to fix foggy headlights, which happens quite regularly on these Audi TTs and any kind of lens with a these plastic outer lens. So the first thing you've got to do is mask up the area, use some masking tape and just cover the area just on the edge of the headlight itself, the edge of the headlight unit itself, because we're going to be using some sandpaper and stuff and we don't want to be touching any of the paint. So get yourself some 2-inch masking tape and just, carefully mask around the edges. Take your time and make sure you do this properly. Now, to make sure that the masking tape sits well, you should really clean it with some alcohol, or just make sure the surface is clean, dust free, or else it won't stick and it will give you some problems. So just stick some masking tape down around the covering edges of where the headlight is, and yeah, just make sure you do it properly and protect it. If you need to do it more than once, just do it more than once, but make sure it's protected because we're going to be sanding there and we don't want it to affect the paint. Okay, so you're going to need a bucket of water because we're going to be using some wet and dry sandpaper. Now I put some fairy liquid in there just to add as a little bit of a lubricant. It helps it a lot. You can see some simple just washing up fluid. And then I started off with some 600 wet and dry paper. You should find this in nearly any store, any car accessory store. So we just throw that in the water. As you can see, I'm shaking it in there. Just start to rub down your headlight lightly. Just try and lightly and evenly. Now it's a bit of a long process, but it is a process I think worth doing. So just take your time, just rub down. Not too much pressure, but just just simply just rub around like you're washing dishes without the scrubbing. So as you're wiping down, as you're rubbing it down with your sandpaper, you're going to get this white film, which is quite normal. It's just the outer film of the plastic rubbing off. This is very, very normal, and this is what happens. But just take your time. Don't rub too hard or push too hard in one area, and it will come off very, very slowly. This is a little bit of a process. Once you've done that, you can dry it off and see exactly where you've rubbed and where needs more rubbing. Okay, once you're happy with that, you just move on to the 1200 grit paper. As you can see here, also wet and dry, and do the same sort of thing. Just lightly rub down, and this is going to be like your final sandpaper rub. So just take time, try and get all the edges. Try not to pin too much on one part. You can kind of hear it as you're rubbing it down. You'll hear when you're rubbing a coarse part and a part that you've rubbed down before, but just take your time. This whole thing is about patience and just taking your time, like I said before. So once you've done that and dry it, it should look something like this. Like you should have a total foggy, almost cataract looking kind of lens. Now these are the fine scratches which are prepared, which is ready for polishing, so to speak. So this is where you want to be. You want to have like a complete lens of that blur, but a consistent kind of blur, that very fine scratches. You don't want them thick ones where it looks yellowy and stuff. So this is what we're looking for. Your headlight should look something like this by the time you finish with the 1200 grit. Now you have to remember not to push too hard in any one area because you will create deep scratches. And this whole sanding process is about slowly grading down the type of scratches that are within the lens. So, like I said before, take your time and just make sure you get where you're getting to. Don't push too hard on any particular area. And this is what it should look like at the end of it. So when you're at this stage, you want to prepare your lacquer because we're going to be putting lacquer onto the actual lens itself. So get yourself some hot water because this is going to warm up the lacquer. So you've got your bucket of hot water there and your clear lacquer from your spray lacquer or wherever. This will warm it up just to make it a bit thinner and a bit more easier to put on. So just cover up where you need to cover up. I'm actually using some pallet wrap, which I found really good, but you could also use black bin bags or any kind of plastic, newspapers or anything. It's all the same. You're just trying to protect your car from any overspray. The way I've done it is a bit overkill, but you kind of get the point. So now with my knife, my little craft knife, I'm just cutting around the areas of where the headlight is. I'm just cutting in the grooves of where the headlight is. Okay, so once you're happy with cutting it out and just taking your time, Like I said before, you just want to put some masking tape around the area to seal it to make sure it's all okay. So when you spray it, it doesn't go onto anywhere. You can see I'm doing here. Really simple stuff. Just tuck it in. Now I cleaned the screen with alcohol just because I didn't want any kind of contaminants on there, and I think that's a good thing to do. That's what most body shops do. Just clean it with alcohol, so when you come to spray your lacquer on over your headlight, it does stick to a clean surface. So this is what it should look like. Now with your lacquer that's been warmed up in your bottle, you just take your time and give it a very light coat over the headlight itself. Now what I found the key to this spraying is dusting light coats. That is the key to that I found to doing this sort of spraying stuff, is to dust light coats and to be patient with what you're actually doing, because when you put too much on, you're going to get runs, drips, and too much of a cluster, and it really does cause you more hassle than good. Once you're done with that, put it back in a bottle, put it back in the bucket so it can stay warm so you can ready for the next coat. After the period and you've realized, and it's been the specified amount of time, which I think is 10 to 15 minutes, it's time to put on another layer. So putting on the layer is the same as the last one. You stay about 8 to 10 inches away, 8 to 12 inches away, I would say, and just dust a light coat over the area. As you can see, you're slowly building up the lacquer resin on the light. And then it's the same again. Now try not to over spray on this. Now as you can see, I'm putting a little bit too much. That's why it's starting to go white. This is when I started to get a little bit worried, but I should have probably waited a little bit longer and did it a bit more lightly. But you know, this is still fixable. This is not the end of the world. Okay, so the next day it looks a little bit blurry, but it's even. Very even, as you can see. So it does look blurry, but it's even. This is just the clear coat really needing flattening down to really get that shine. But this is pretty good so far because the coat's even and it's all blurry, as you can see there. There you go. Look. So you can see it's consistent and even. So once I was happy with the lacquer, this is what I did again. I hit it up with the 1200 wet and dry, just to smooth down the outer surface, just one more time. It's pretty much the same procedure as we started before. You might get a bit more white. This is the lacquer. Now you must remember to let this lacquer cure overnight before you decide to rub it down. Like, look at your instructions on your can to make sure you've got the right time where you can actually start to work on it again, because it does have a curing process. So as you can see, I'm just lightly rubbing it down, and there's lots of this white stuff coming, and you will start to hear the surface smoothing out. You hear less roughness, and then you know that's where you're supposed to be. But always remember to keep it lubricated so you can just rub it down nicely. Now this shouldn't take too long, best part of 20 minutes, 15 minutes if you're particularly fussy. And if you're not happy from here, you can actually add another coat if you have got a major problem. So everything's reversible and fixable. Once you finish rubbing down, you just want to just wipe it off with a cloth, a clean cloth of some sort. So just rub it down. As you can see, this is what it's going to look like once you've finished it, in a way, but the wet gives it a bit of a deceiving look. But just wipe it down with a clean cloth and make sure all the area around it is nice and clean. You may have to wipe it down a few times, but just take your time and wipe it down. You're going to get the desired result. Then with some wax or polish, just take your time and just slowly rub it down. As you can see I'm doing here, in circular motion, whatever methodical motion it says on your tin, is polishing either way. So once you've polished it up, just clean it off, and this is what it looks like after you've done your job. The polish really does bring the shine to it and make it look brand new, so you don't have to buy back a new lens. And this saves you a lot of money. So there you can see the difference of of how it looked to how it looks now, all from just a little bit of small effort, and you get a lot of reward from that. So just take your time and clean off the polish with a clean towel. Once you're done, rip off all your bits and pieces, all your protecting molding, and just clean up your car around the area where anything might have got onto it. You can see clearly how much better that is. It's nice and shiny and kicking back a nice shine. And it's all for a little bit of effort. Now the total job probably takes maybe 2-3 hours, but the reward is fantastic. And using the clear silicone method, you've got a very, very long-term, long-lasting finish on it. So just a quick reminder to show you what it was and how it looked. All blurry there, all foamed up there, as you can see there, to what it actually went to. There you go, look, shiny even from a distance. And that's the improvement you can make in a short time. Hope that helped. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe.